Morning, guys. Okay, welcome to English for this week. It's going to be a lot of you and not very much of me this week. Not very many videos, apart from this first one. This week is all about letting go and letting your creative juices flow. Okay, so, and coming up with your own story completely based on Rosie Revere. So we're going to keep the idea of the theme of the story the same, but you're going to change as much as you want to. So the whole point of Rosie Revere is that it doesn't matter that you make mistakes, that you keep trying and you try and you again, and you will first succeed. So it doesn't matter about that first flop. You try again to see if it works. Okay, so I want you to apply that to something of your idea. So we're going to invent a story, and I'm going to help you to start with. So I'm going to come up with some ideas, or that you might be able to use, and you can come up with your own. Then I'm going to show you the one I'm going to use in class. I've come up with my own idea for the children that are in class already. And actually, I did it before I read your Rosie Revere stories from last week. And some of your ideas were better than mine. So you're better writers than I am. So I'm hoping you're going to be able to keep that up this week. So you're going to create and design a brand new character. You're going to think about what they want to do, so they don't have to be an engineer anymore. And you're going to think about what worries them. What mistake did they make? What happened to make them worry? And how are they going to fix it again? How are they going to make it better? Okay, so we've already talked about this actually. I've just given you the answer. So what was the message in Rosie Revere? If you weren't listening to me a minute ago, then you can pause the video now and talk to a grown-up. But if not, just carry on listening. So pause now. Okay, so behind my speech, my thought bubbles. So it's don't hide your true feelings. Don't worry that you're not going to be good enough. Not being afraid to make mistakes and to try and try again. Okay. So, what might you like doing, but are afraid to let people know? So the best stories come from experiences that you've done. Okay, or maybe what you want to be or want to do when you're grown up. Now you're 5 and 6 and 7 years old. You've got your whole lives ahead of you, so you might not necessarily be able to pick something that's happened to you. But Rosie wanted to be a really great engineer. Is there anything that you really, really wanted to be or want to be when you're grown up? Okay, and then what could go wrong with that plan of yours? Okay, so for example, you could really want to be, and I will pause it in a minute and get you to talk to your grown up, but you might really want to be a chef. Okay, you might think, yeah, when I grow up, I want to do lots of cooking, I want to do lots of baking, and then maybe something went wrong. What might have gone wrong if you were a chef? It might be that you burnt something or you set fire to the kitchen. Okay, actually that's an even better one. So set fire to the kitchen. But it could be lots and lots of different things. I have chosen a vet. Okay, I'm not going to give too much away, but I have decided to do a vet. So pause the video now, talk to somebody about what you might want to do, or what somebody might want to do when they're older, and what mistake might have you made to begin with to get you all embarrassed. Okay, so pause the video now. Okay, good. So hopefully you've got a couple of ideas. You don't have to have just one idea. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to come up with a new main character. We're going to think about what they did when they were small. We're going to think about why they got embarrassed. We're going to create a new visitor who's going to come and help them, and then make them smile from ear to ear, and then we're going to come up with our ending at the end. So that is very similar to the Rosie Revere structure. We're not going to change it too much, okay? Because the more you change it, the harder it gets then to actually finish the story the way you want. So keeping it to a structure we already know will be better. Okay, so main characters. So Rosie Revere was a boy, so we can have another kind of girl. We can have a different girl. Okay, you might have a boy. Okay, you might have a pirate like I did in my story from last week. Okay, we had dancers. We had a spaceman from somebody who was in school last week. Okay, you might be an actor. Now those are just some ideas. You're gonna draw in this box. What I'm doing is showing you the kind of things you could do. So what you might want to do now, you might want to get a scrap piece of paper, just to do a little bit of brainstorming on, a little bit of note taking, and talk to your grown-up, or talk to the person you've got at home with you. What do you want your main character to be? Now, you can't have the same main character as your story from last time. Okay, so pause the video now and we'll go on to the next one when you've unpaused. Okay, so hopefully you've got 1, 2, maybe even 3 choices for your main character. What I haven't done yet is thought about how we can describe them. And I'll talk about that right at the end when I show all 6 boxes together. So this is what they did when they were small. So this is the job, okay, which I've already got you to pause the video and talk about. So as I said, I'm going to choose a vet. Now I chose a pirate last time. Actually that's not what they wanted to be. We did have, somebody did a story about an artist. So they wanted to be an artist. Somebody did one about being a dancer. Somebody, I think, I can't remember who it was, did something about designing like sweets. So be like a chocolatier or something. That was quite cool. So it's any kind of job. It could be policeman. So I want you to pause the video now and think of about 4 or 5 jobs that your character could have. Okay, so pause the video now. Okay, now you've got a main character and you've got what they wanted to do when they were small, or what they were doing. Okay, a detective or a policeman or something. So this is why they get embarrassed. So you think right back to the Rosie Revere story. She made the helium pants and she made the cheese hat, and when she gave the cheese hat to Uncle Fred, laughed and laughed and laughed. Okay, so what would your person do this time? So mine was Pirate Pete, and he made, what did he make? He made, because I made you make it, I made the children in school choose something like a hat. So he made a pirate hat. Oh, that was it. It was an inflatable, you pressed a button on it and it became an inflatable dinghy. So that if it was, because they were pirates, if they were ever overboard, they could press a button on their hat and it became an inflatable dinghy so they could get back to their ship. So that's what he made. So this could be anything at all. So if you think, thinking about what we chose here, so if it was an artist, the artist picture might be not very good. So the artist might have painted a picture or drawn a picture that was not very good. The dancer might have messed up in a show. So messed up some moves. If you're making sweets, you could have blown something up. If you were a policeman, you could have caught the wrong person. You could have wanted to be a fireman and set something on fire by mistake and couldn't put it out. Okay, it's completely up to you now. So pause and have another think. Okay, so we're starting to flesh out our main character now. So we've got the main character, we've got what they wanted to do and why they couldn't do it, and why they kept their dreams to themselves. Because we're going to try and use that story language from last week. So, could be peeking in somewhere, you could be embarrassed, we could be, there's lots of different things that we can have. So now we want a new visitor, somebody who's going to come and help them. Now this can be anything at all. This can be an aunt, an uncle, a great granny, could be a friend, it could be the postman, literally anything. Okay, it could be a dinosaur enthusiast, it could be somebody a pilot, anything at all. It doesn't have to be about flying. So this is your ideas. So pause the video now and write some down. Okay, good. So we've got our new visitor. So what made them smile? So how did the visitor help your main character realise that they could be a great one of those things? So you think Great Aunt Rose, she said that when the heli cheesecopter crashed, actually it didn't matter that it crashed. It flew for a little bit, and that's all that it needed to do, and she gave him a hug. So what did they do this time? So for example, let's go. The dancer could have helped with some moves. Help with a dance routine. And your character, that great aunt, might have been a dancer or gone on stage when she was younger. I'm going to have to go back because I can't remember now. The artist, okay? So the artist might have helped with a picture. If you had a detective, it might have helped solve a crime. You know, so it's something that helped with. Helped solve a crime. Anything like that. I'm not choosing vet for a reason, because I chose vet and I've got my 6 boxes I'm going to show you and tell you my story in a minute. And then you want something that happened at the end. So if they're dancing, does she put on a show? Okay, so put on a show. If you make sweets, are you going to sell them in a shop somewhere? If you're a policeman, are you going to catch a robber? You know, if you're an artist, are you going to, you know, paint the most amazing picture that goes into a museum and get everybody else in your class? Because remember, we're still going to try and stick with classrooms ideas as well. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow when we come to do our boxing up sheet and our story map. Okay, so I want to show you mine. So this is what I came up with the help of my 2 children, actually. We came up with this together. So I've got Violet Brett the vet. Okay, I tried to make it rhyme like Rosie Revere engineer. So Violet Brett the vet. She was a shy, she lived in a crowded house. She was, and this is where you can start putting a bit more. So she was tall. Oh, let's make that writing a bit smaller. So she was tall with long knobbly knees, because I've drawn them, so we've got with knobbly knees. She lived in a crowded house. Okay, in Lila Greer's, you know, you can change Lila Greer to something else if you wanted to. You can have Mr. Coppin's classroom if you really wanted. So she was too shy. She was still too shy to speak. She peeked, and actually, I'm not going to have she peeked in the trash for her engineer's stash. When she was out at playtime, she looked for animals that she could help. Okay, so once she tried to put a worm back together by plastering the 2 bits together. And then there was a time where she tried to rescue a bird that had come down the chimney. Now, why was she embarrassed? Because the bird got away, flapped around the room and trashed the whole room. So the vase got broken, the chair came over, the pictures fell off the wall. So she kept her ideas of wanting to be a vet to herself. Until one day, Uncle Barney came from Australia, who worked on an Australian ranch with lots of animals. Okay, and he told her about all these animals that used to work with, kangaroos and koalas, and that gave her an idea that she wanted to do the same thing. So, what made smile from ear to ear? Well, she tried to bandage up a dog's paw, and unfortunately, it didn't work the first time, but Uncle Barney helped to do it. Okay, and the ending of my story is they went to go and visit the farm and helped out on the farm. So it's sticking to the same kind of ideas. So Uncle Barney, he's a bit crazy. and he has helped with kangaroos because he's kangaroos and actually crocodiles in the bush, and the bush is like the Australian white wilderness in the bush. Okay, so I'm adding a bit more information on. So that's my story ideas. So I want you now to go, you can rewind, pause this video at any point, but using the ideas that you have come up with while I've been talking, is I want you to fill in the 6 boxes just like you did before. Okay, they're just slightly different. So the main character goes here. What did they do when they were small? Bandaged up worms and rescued a bird. Why did they get embarrassed? So somebody's still going to laugh at me. I just haven't decided who that's going to be yet. I'm going to have to think about that for tomorrow. And then Uncle Barney came and told her about all the animals that he helps with in Australia. She tried to bandage up a dog's paw. It didn't go right the first time, but Uncle Barney helped again. And then at the end, they all visited a farm to help out with the animals. And that is it. What I then want, once you've done your 6 boxes, I want you to, it says a partner on here, but that's for school. I want you to retell your story from start to finish with your grown-up, okay? The more times you tell it, the less chance you're going to have when you come to write it of forgetting bits, okay? And also, your grown-up might turn around and say, well, that doesn't really make sense. So anything that doesn't make sense, you can kind of talk it over with somebody and help you kind of iron out the little details. Tomorrow we're going to fill in our boxing up sheet, and then there's no video on Wednesday or Thursday because I just want you to write it, but I'll talk to you more about that at the end of tomorrow's video. So good luck creating. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these fantastic, amazing ideas. So off you go.